Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the atmospheric of our world around us, and this time we will talk about one peculiar madness. This madness is a type of madness that is typical to Germans. Their imperialistic dreams about ruling first of all Europe and later entire world. We know that they tried, especially Second World War. They succeeded to some extent, and they made some harm to many people, many nations, but they didn't manage. The tides of war turned against them because the opponents were too numerous, nunc Hercules contra plures. So in Latin it means even Hercules cannot manage against too many, or many, depends on translation. So they didn't manage to do so, and they were not like Macedonians under the Alexander the Great and Philip. So the leadership was not as good. That's why the tides of war turned against them at the end of the day. Okay, so after Second World War and especially after unification in 1990, they decided to dominate first Europe, later maybe entire world, by economy and pseudo-ecological ideology. So they started to push this green agenda, green energy, which is not so ecological because of the heavy metals included there, many different types of plastics, and so on and so on. So these sun batteries are composed of these substances, and during the deposition of the old batteries, one needs to put a lot of energy, efforts, and money, first of all, to make this decomposition process not so dangerous to the environment and at the end of the day to the people. That's why when something is so expensive, we know how it ends. It ends up somewhere abandoned in the more desolated areas, and all these substances, heavy metals and derivatives of plastic, go to the environment and create a pollution. And this is what Germans created, that on the basis of so-called cheap Russian resources, that's why they were so close with Russia, and collaboration with China, because their labor force may be no longer the cheapest in the world, because also China is experiencing economical and demographic difficulties, and people in the big cities live many of them on a very high materialistic level. That's why they do not want to work as hard as their parents and grandparents were working. So taking all of these factors together, Chinese labor force is shrinking slowly, and it's becoming more and more demanding in terms of living conditions. So they are no longer as cheap as they were, but in comparison to the German labor force, they are still cheap. So German industrial elite created a plan that, together with cheap Russian resources and the usage of the labor force in China, and this partial usage, they will produce this green energy machines, these green energy mills, and other sun batteries in great amounts, and electric vehicles that are called cars. They are called cars to mislead the people, because these are not cars, these are practically useless toys, very expensive. So with all of these items, they were thinking that they would dominate at least Europe and later the entire world, because they will be a main hub for the distribution and production and production of some elements to these all machines and items, which the German government, by economical and political influence, enforce on other European nations, and they will force them to buy. And this was the plan for new German Empire. Taking into account the situation of modern German society, the society that for the last 50 years have consecutive year of decreasing natural decrease of population, and the population is getting more and more diverse due to the constant influx of the people from around the world, and taking into account that prosperity spoiled their young people. Even the people who are coming from the previous generations of immigrants are equally spoiled young ones. So we see that there is a huge discrepancy between the perception of reality by elites that are ruling Germany and the reality itself. Because even if their plan, based on the cheap Russian resources and cheaper Chinese labor force, used at least partially to create all of these items and all of this pseudo green industry to dominate Europe work, even if it works, at the end of the day, it would induce the resistance, at least in some areas of Europe, against Germany. So they would still need to have some functional armed forces or even police and armed forces to keep the order that would be established. And now we see that with this society they have, they are in a certain moment not able to do it. Of course, there are no trends that cannot be reversed if one really wants to, but I don't see that German elite, which is completely soaked with the neo-Marxist anti-family and anti-social ideology. I don't see that this elite does anything to revert these trends that are eating alive this society. And it's not that, as many people say, that someone forced Germany to go into this political pseudo-green agenda, neo-Marxist. They did it to themselves. Their elite was supporting this. Their industrial owners and politicians were supporting welfare state because for many years it was easier to rule these masses and exporting at least part of the production somewhere else for artificially cheaper Russian resources. They were just building their economy that now has to shrink and has to suffer when conditions changed since February this year. How it will end, we will see, but we see that Germans are good in making another catastrophe that at the end of the day touches themselves. And have a nice day, all the best, bye.